Hi everyone, Miss Kachibata here. Today is week 4, day 2 for 4th grade. Um, so we'll just go ahead and get started. Today's learning targets are I can decompose non-unit fractions and represent them as a whole number times a unit fraction using tape diagrams. Okay, so as a reminder, a unit fraction, it shows you over here, a unit fraction is a fraction whose numerator is 1. Okay, so things like 1/2 and 1/4. Um, and then for our daily warm up, all right, we'll just go ahead and start here. I see that this tape diagram has a whole of 15. Okay, and I need to break it up into 3 equal parts. So I know that if there are 3 equal units and 15 is my total, I know that each one is going to be worth 5. All right, so I would write 5, 10, and 15. All right, then it says, what is the value of each part? So the value of each part is worth 5. Okay, then it says, use the diagram above to complete the activity below. So we're going to write an addition sentence. So I know that my addition sentence is going to be 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15. Okay, my multiplication sentence is going to be 3 copies of 5. Okay, so 3 times 5 equals 15, or 5 times 3 equals 15. Okay, then it says write a division sentence. All right, so I'm going to just go back to my multiplication and do the opposite. So I'm going to say 15 divided by 5 equals 3, or 15 divided by 3 equals 5. Okay, so that's our daily warm-up for today. It's just going to get you ready for that repeated addition and then making that into a multiplication sentence. Okay, so now there's something left on the bottom. All right, so on our second page, this is our new learning page, okay? So this is going to be that part where they explain the new learning to you, okay? So here they have decomposed each fraction and into a tape diagram, and they've decomposed it into a sum of unit fractions. Remember, those unit fractions mean that there has to be a 1 as the numerator. So they want you to write the equivalent multiplication sentence, all right? So I see here they have one whole on this tape diagram. This whole thing is one whole, and they've shaded in 2 pieces out of 4 total units. So I know that my fraction being represented here is 2/4, and I can decompose that into 1/4 plus 1/4, okay? And then I can see that they also wrote, okay, well, 2/4 is the same as 2 copies of 1/4. And right here they said there are 2 copies of 1/4 shaded. So I write 2 times 1/4. Remember, 2 copies of 1/4. Here's 1 copy of 1/4 and here's another copy. Okay? So on B, they have one whole again in this whole tape diagram, and they have 5 out of 8 units shaded in. So they said 5/8 is the same as 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. So that means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of 1/8. So I can also write 5 times 1/8. Okay. Moving on down. Now they've done the same thing, but they show it with a tape with a fraction that is greater than 1. Okay, so they showed the fraction 7/5. So I can see that this is the one whole, right? And there are 5 units in there, so that's why 5 is my denominator. But I have 7 total pieces shaded in, so 7/5. So you could say that 7/5 is the same as 7. So you could say it is the same as 5 copies of 1/5, right? Here's 5 copies, plus another 2 copies, okay? What you could have also have said is this is the same as 7 copies of 1/5, right? They could have also said that because that's still going to give you 7/5. Okay? So that is our new learning. That's just an explanation of the new learning. All right, so we'll go to the next page. Okay. Here again, this is a little bit of the new learning up at the top. So they just showed the same thing. Draw a tape diagram to model 9/8. Record the decomposition of 9/8 into unit fractions as a multiplication sentence. Okay, so again, they did the same thing that I had just showed you previously. 9/8 is the same as 9 copies of 1/8, which is what they did right here. Okay. So now we're going to move down to the let's try section, right? This is where you're going to be doing the work, right? So this would kind of be like the we do during the lesson, okay? So it says decompose each fraction modeled by a tape diagram as a sum of unit fractions. Then we're going to write the equivalent multiplication sentence, okay? So I see that there are 3, this is one whole right here, and there are 3 units, and I see that they shaded in 1, 2, and they already told me this represents 2/3 right here. So I know if I'm going to decompose this into unit fractions, my numerator has to be 1. So 2/3 is equal to 1/3 plus 1/3. Okay. And now I'm going to write that multiplication sentence. So 2/3 is equal to 2 copies of 1/3, right? And I knew that it was 2 copies because, again, I have 1, 2 copies, right? I have 1/3 written twice, right here and then right here. Okay. So it says how many thirds are there, right? There are 3 thirds altogether, right? There are 3 thirds altogether, okay? What does each shaded part represent? Each shaded part represents 1/3, okay? And what does the whole shaded part represent? 2/3, or written as a fraction, 2/3, okay? Moving on down, it says draw a tape diagram and record the given fractions decomposition into unit fractions as a multiplication sentence. All right, so I know that this says 3/8 is my fraction, so I'm going to divide this tape diagram into 8 equal pieces. Okay. All right, and that's kind of equal. All right, and then I'm going to shade in 3 because my fraction is 3/8. And I'm not going to forget to label my one whole, which is this whole thing. Okay. So now I just need to write the multiplication sentence. Okay, if you need to write down the addition sentence first to help you, you can totally do that. So 3/8 would be the same as 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. Okay, and this is going to be the same as 1, 2, 3 copies of 1/8. Okay, so again, how many eighths are there? All right, there are 8/8, right? There are 8/8 altogether. And then what fractional unit does the tape diagram show? The tape diagram shows 3/8. Okay. All right, moving on to the next page. All right, this is your problem set. So if you want to pause here and do this now, you can do that, and then play the video when you're ready to go over it. All right, so they have the first one here as a model for you. All right, so they want us to decompose each shaded fraction that is modeled by a tape diagram, and they want us to do the sum of unit fractions, so the addition sentence first, and then they want us to write the equivalent multiplication sentence. Okay, so the first one has been done for us, so now we're going to move on to the second one. All right, we'll keep that model up there to help us just in case. All right, so I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces altogether. So I know that my denominator is going to be 5. And there are 1, 2 pieces shaded in here. So I know that this tape diagram is representing 2/5. So I'm going to write my addition sentence using a sum of unit fractions first. So 2/5 is equal to 1/5 plus 1/5. Okay. And then I'm going to write the equivalent multiplication sentence. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, okay, 2/5 is equal to, and I'm going to ask myself, how many copies of 1/5 do I have over here? I have 2 copies of 1/5. Okay, and that's all we're doing. Moving on to the next one, go ahead and write down that fraction that is being represented by the tape diagram. I can see that I have 5 units shaded in, and I have a total of 6 units. So the fraction being shown here is 5/6. Okay, so I'm going to write that as a sum of unit fractions. So 5/6 is equal to 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6. Okay, and then I'm going to write my multiplication sentence. My multiplication sentence is going to be 5/6 is equal to, and I'm going to ask myself, how many copies of 1/6 do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of 1/6. Okay, moving on down, last one. Okay, same thing. I notice here that this time my whole, there are 3 units in my one whole. So that means my denominator is going to be 3. And I see that I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thirds. Okay, so I know that 5 thirds is the same as 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. Okay, and then writing my multiplication sentence again, this is the same as 5 thirds is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of 1/3. Okay, and moving on to our last page. All right, this time it says draw a tape diagram and record the given fractions decomposition into unit fractions as a multiplication sentence. So now we're going to draw the tape diagram and then we're just going to write the multiplication sentence. And again, if you need to write that repeated addition sentence to help you, you totally can. Okay, so we're going to start up here with 4/5. I'm going to draw a tape diagram. Let's see. Okay. Here's my tape diagram. Oh, that did work. Okay. I'm getting fancier with my technology here, guys. All right, I'm going to divide it into 5 equal pieces because I know that my denominator is 5. All right, so 1, whoops, that's not going to work. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and I'm going to shade in 4 of them to show 4/5. And I know that my whole is 1. All right, so now I'm going to write a multiplication sentence. Again, if you need to write that addition sentence to help you, you totally can. So I'm going to say, okay, 4/5 is equal to 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5, and you only had to do that part if it helps you. The part they were looking for is the multiplication sentence, which would be 4/5 is equal to 4 copies of 1/5. Okay. All right, moving down to the next one. Okay. All right, we have 5/8. So I am going to divide this into 8 pieces. All right. And I know that all 8 pieces are going to equal 1 whole because 8 is my denominator. And I'm going to shade in 5 because 5 is my numerator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and now I'm going to write that multiplication sentence again. So I'm going to write 5/8 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of 1/8. And again, if you weren't sure how I got that, you could do the repeated addition. 5/8 is equal to 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. Okay? All right, moving on down to the last one. I have 7/9. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have 9 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, and this is all going to be one whole because this is a fraction less than 1. And I'm going to shade in 7 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, and then writing that multiplication sentence, 7/9 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 copies of the unit fraction 1/9. Okay. All right, so that is your work for today. Again, some of you may think of this as a review because we did go over this before. If you forgot it, that's totally okay. Please reach out to me if you need any help. And I will see you guys on the next video. Have a great day. Bye.